The Galactic Health Initiative. Supreme Health Officer Vex 427 stared at the holographic display with growing horror. The readings couldn't be right. He commanded his neural implants to run the analysis again, but the results remained unchanged. The newly discovered species, humans, were voluntarily consuming substances that should have been classified as biological weapons. High Counselor Vex 427 addressed the floating crystalline entity before him. I request immediate intervention. These creatures are a threat to the very foundation of the Zenith Confederation's Great Health Initiative. The crystalline being pulsed with soft blue light. Explain your concerns, Officer Vex 427. Our preliminary assessments showed the humans to be a relatively harmless species, still confined to their solar system. That's precisely what makes them so dangerous, High Counselor. They've survived. No, thrived, while systematically poisoning themselves. Vex 427's tentacles trembled as he projected a series of images. They call these restaurants. Establishments dedicated to the mass distribution of toxic substances disguised as sustenance. The display showed countless humans crowding into buildings bearing strange symbols. Golden arches, crowned figures, smiling elderly females. Inside, they consumed items that made Vex 427's toxicity sensors overload. Grease-saturated protein discs between carbohydrate slabs, liquid sugar concentrates, crystallized flavor compounds. Surely this must be some form of ritual combat or punishment, the High Counselor suggested. No, High Counselor. They do this for pleasure. Vex 427's color patterns shifted to express deep distress. And now they're developing faster-than-light technology. Our projections show they'll achieve interstellar travel within 5 planetary rotations. Another council member, a being of pure energy contained within a quantum field, flickered with concern. What is the danger? Let them poison themselves if they wish. You don't understand. Vex 427 insisted. Their physiology. It's adapted. These toxins don't kill them. Instead, they've developed a dependency. Their military personnel maintain peak fighting efficiency only when regularly supplied with these substances. They've turned their weakness into strength. The council chamber erupted in murmurs of disbelief. The High Counselor's crystalline form dimmed momentarily, processing this information. Our preliminary studies of their conflicts show something disturbing. Vex 427 continued. Human military bases don't just stockpile weapons. They stockpile these comfort foods. Their supply ships carry mountains of frozen potato strips and meat patties alongside ammunition. They've integrated this chemical dependency into their military doctrine. Surely you exaggerate. The energy being scoffed. No species would burden their military logistics with such frivolous cargo. Vex 427's primary tentacle activated another hologram, showing a massive human vessel under construction. This is the UES Comfort, currently being retrofitted in Earth orbit. It's an entire carrier ship dedicated to something they call morale enhancement through culinary excellence. They're planning to launch an entire fleet of these vessels. The High Counselor's crystalline structure vibrated with decision. We cannot allow this contamination to spread through the galaxy. The Great Health Initiative has maintained peace and purity for 10,000 cycles. If humans achieve interstellar travel, they will corrupt everything we've built. What do you suggest? Asked the energy being. We must act now before they complete their FTL technology. The Zenith Confederation hereby authorizes Operation Clean Plate. We will send an ultimatum. Abandon these toxic substances and submit to proper nutritional protocols, or face immediate quarantine. Vex 427's color patterns shifted to express satisfaction, but deep in his neural clusters, an uncomfortable thought formed. The humans he'd observed didn't seem like a species that would quietly submit to dietary restrictions. In fact, based on their historical records, telling humans they couldn't have something tended to make them want it even more. As the council chamber emptied, A junior researcher approached VEX 427 with a data crystal. "Sir, you should see this. We've intercepted communications about something called the Strategic Snack Reserve. The humans, they're not just planning to continue their practices. They're weaponizing them." VEX 427's tentacles curled in resignation. He had a feeling the Zenith Confederation's Great Health Initiative was about to face its greatest challenge yet. And somewhere on Earth, production lines were running at full capacity, preparing for a conflict that would be fought not just with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes, but with deep fryers and soft-serve machines. The galaxy was about to learn why you should never get between humans and their comfort food. Operation Deep Fryer. Admiral Sarah Chen stared at the alien ultimatum displayed on the United Earth Command's primary screen, a half-eaten cheeseburger forgotten in her hand. The message was clear: abandon all toxic sustenance protocols within 30 Earth days, or face immediate quarantine and potential military action. "Well," she said, taking another bite, "I guess we know why they've been scanning our fast food joints for the past 6 months." General Rodriguez, head of strategic operations, nodded grimly. "The Zenith Confederation thinks they're saving us from ourselves. Classic case of cultural imperialism, just with more nutritional supplements and fewer colonial outposts." The UEC war room buzzed with activity as Earth's military leadership gathered to address this unprecedented threat. The Zenith Confederation's technological superiority was well documented by Earth's covert observation posts. Their ships were faster, their weapons more advanced, and their defensive systems nearly impenetrable. But they had one critical weakness: they'd never fought humans before. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Chen addressed the room, "the Zenith Confederation has made a crucial mistake. They've shown us exactly what they don't understand about humanity, and in doing so, they've given us our weapon." She gestured to Dr. Emily Wong, head of the newly formed Culinary Warfare Division. Dr. Wong stepped forward, bringing up a holographic display of a massive spacecraft. "Meet the real UES Comfort," she said, her eyes gleaming. What the Zenith observed was a decoy. The actual vessel is 3 times larger and represents humanity's first true fusion of military and culinary technology. The hologram expanded, revealing deck after deck of specialized equipment. But these weren't typical warship components. They were industrial-scale kitchens, hydroponics bays, and something labeled Tactical Ice Cream Production Facility. "The Zenith think we're dependent on comfort food because we're weak," Dr. Wong continued. "They don't understand that we've turned it into a strength. Project Deep Fryer isn't just about feeding our troops. It's about weaponizing hospitality itself." General Rodriguez took over, highlighting different sections of the ship. "We're not just building a kitchen in space. We're creating a fully integrated food production and delivery system that can support both our forces and potential allies. The Comfort carries enough supplies to feed 1 million beings for a year, with menus adapted for every known species in the galaxy." "But that's not all," Admiral Chen added. "Dr. Wong, show them Operation Secret Sauce." The hologram shifted to display a series of chemical formulas. "We've been studying the Zenith's biology," Dr. Wong explained. "Their obsession with nutritional purity has left them vulnerable. Their digestive systems are so standardized, so optimized for their idea of perfect nutrition, that they've lost the ability to process anything else. But that also means they've never experienced the joy of a perfectly seasoned dish." "You're talking about weaponized deliciousness," one of the generals said incredulously. "Exactly." Dr. Wong smiled. "The Comfort isn't just carrying Earth cuisine. It's carrying the culmination of humanity's 10,000 years of culinary evolution. Every comfort food, every secret family recipe, every fusion dish that shouldn't work but somehow does. We're going to show the galaxy what they've been missing." Admiral Chen stood, her expression determined. "The Zenith think they're starting a war over nutrition. What they're actually doing is giving humanity the perfect opportunity to demonstrate one of our greatest strengths: our ability to turn any gathering, even a battlefield, into a chance to share a meal. The UES Comfort launches in 48 hours, General Rodriguez announced. Behind it will follow the UES Desert Storm, the UES Umami, and the UES Julia Child. Each vessel is equipped with both defensive capabilities and enough cooking capacity to make Julia Child herself proud. But what about the Zenith's superior technology? Someone asked. Admiral Chen's smile turned predatory. They may have better guns, but we have something they've never encountered. A battle doctrine that integrates tactical cooking with strategic operations. They think our food habits are a weakness to be exploited. By the time they realize their mistake, we'll have already won the hearts, minds, and taste buds of half the galaxy. As the meeting concluded, Dr. Wong pulled up one final hologram, a detailed analysis of various alien species' potential reactions to chocolate. You know what they say, she mused. An army marches on its stomach. We're about to show the Zenith Confederation that humanity doesn't just march on our stomachs. We launched star fleets on them. In Earth orbit, construction crews worked around the clock, putting the finishing touches on humanity's most ambitious military project yet. The UES Comfort's massive hull gleamed in the starlight, its kitchen ventilation systems disguised as weapon ports, its cargo holds filled with everything from artisanal cheese to zero-gravity pizza ovens. The Zenith Confederation had demanded humanity abandon its comfort foods. Instead, humanity was preparing to share them with the entire galaxy. Operation Deep Fryer was about to begin, and the universe would never be the same. The Battle of the Golden Arches. The UES Comfort dropped out of FTL drive at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, its massive bulk casting a shadow across the stars. Behind it, the rest of humanity's culinary fleet emerged, the Desert Storm, the Umami, and the Julia Child, each vessel's hull adorned with what the Zenith Confederation had termed hazardous culinary iconography. Admiral Chen stood on the Comfort's bridge, watching as the tactical display lit up with incoming Zenith vessels. Status report on Operation Secret Sauce. Phase 1 complete. Admiral, Dr. Wong reported from her station. We've successfully established contact with 3 minor species in the Zenith Confederation. The Orcs were particularly enthusiastic about our pizza prototype. The Admiral nodded. The Orcs were a silicon-based species whose support for the Zenith's Great Health Initiative had always been reluctant at best. It hadn't taken much convincing. Just one perfectly crafted slice of deep dish pizza, specially adapted for silicon-based life forms, to persuade them to reconsider their allegiances. Zenith fleet approaching, announced Lieutenant Park from Tactical. 5 capital ships, 20 support vessels. They're broadcasting their standard warning about nutritional contraband. Open a channel, Chen ordered. Let's see if they're ready to talk. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Supreme Health Officer Vex 427's tentacled form. His color patterns expressed what the ship's xenobiologists interpreted as a mixture of disgust and alarm. This is your final warning, Vex 427 announced. Our scans detect massive quantities of prohibited substances aboard your vessels. Surrender now and accept nutritional reformation, or we will be forced to take action. Admiral Chen smiled. Officer Vex 427, we've reviewed your proposal, and we have a counteroffer. We invite you and your crew to join us for dinner. The alien's tentacles writhed in shock. You dare to launch Operation Golden Arches, Chen ordered, cutting the transmission. Across the human fleet, specially designed pods began launching toward the Zenith vessels. The aliens' superior targeting systems easily detected them, but their threat assessment protocols were confused by the contents. The pods contained no explosives, no conventional weapons, just carefully packaged meals designed for each known species in the Zenith fleet. They're powering up weapons, Park reported. Hold position, Chen commanded. Dr. Wong. Delivery pods are on target. The Arxian ships in their fleet are already breaking formation to retrieve them. And, yes, we're detecting unauthorized airlock activations across their support vessels. The Zenith fleet's precise formation began to waver as crew members across their ships succumbed to curiosity. Their standardized nutrition protocols had kept them alive and healthy, but they had never experienced anything like the aromas now seeping through their environmentally sealed ships. "Sir," Park's voice rose with excitement. "The Zenith's third support wing. They're powered down their weapons. They appear to be having lunch." Vex 427's image appeared again, his color patterns chaotic with frustration. "What have you done? Those ships were crewed by our most disciplined veterans. We introduced them to the concept of a lunch break," Chen replied calmly. "Your crews have been working hard enforcing these nutritional protocols. Don't you think they deserve a taste of what they've been missing? This is a violation of every health and safety regulation in the Confederation." Vex 427's tentacles were practically tying themselves in knots. "Actually," Dr. Wong cut in, "we've analyzed your regulations quite thoroughly. There's no specific prohibition against voluntary cultural exchange through supervised culinary experimentation. Your rules focus on mandatory protocols, not optional dining experiences." On the tactical display, more and more Zenith ships were falling out of formation. The Arxian vessels had completely broken away, their crews enthusiastically sharing their newly acquired pizza with neighboring ships. Even Vex 427's flagship was showing signs of disruption, with multiple unauthorized gatherings being reported in its crew quarters. "You don't understand what you're doing," Vex 427 insisted. "Our society is built on nutritional harmony. This chaos isn't chaos at all," Chen interrupted. "This is community. This is what happens when beings come together to share something more meaningful than standardized nutrient packets. Your own crews are proving our point. There's room in the galaxy for both health and happiness." The battle, such as it was, ended 3 hours later. Not a single shot had been fired. Instead, the Zenith fleet had effectively ceased to function as a military unit, transformed into what humans would recognize as an impromptu food festival. Even Vex 427's flagship had succumbed after someone smuggled aboard something called a cookie. As Admiral Chen watched the Zenith ships drift peacefully among the scattered dining pods, she received a priority message from Earth Command. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy as other human vessels made first culinary contact with various species. The Zenith Confederation's iron grip on galactic nutritional standards was crumbling in the face of humanity's most potent weapon. The universal appeal of good food shared in good company. "Send a message to Officer Vex 427, Chen ordered. "Tell him that when he's ready, we'd be honored to discuss the terms of a cultural exchange program and have the kitchen prepare something special. I think he's finally ready to understand why we take our comfort food so seriously." In the ship's main galley, Dr. Wong was already working on a new recipe, specially designed for Vex 427 species. She had a feeling that the real challenge wasn't going to be ending the conflict. It would be keeping up with the demand once the rest of the galaxy got its first taste of human hospitality. Flavored diplomacy. The Galactic Council Chamber had changed significantly in the 3 months since the Battle of the Golden Arches. The traditionally austere hall now featured what humans would recognize as a food court, complete with specialized environmental zones to accommodate the dietary needs of various species. The Zenith Confederation's once rigid protocols had given way to something unprecedented, an interstellar culinary renaissance. Dr. Emily Wong stood before the assembled representatives, presenting the preliminary findings of humanity's culinary exchange initiative. Behind her, holographic displays showed the dramatic changes sweeping across the galaxy. "As you can see," she explained, "the introduction of Earth's culinary traditions has led to a 300% increase in cross-species social interactions. The Arxians and Voltraxians, who haven't had diplomatic relations in 3 centuries, are now co-hosting weekly pizza parties." Supreme Health Officer Vex 427, his color patterns significantly more relaxed than during their first encounter, raised a tentacle. While these social benefits are interesting, we remain concerned about the health implications. Our latest surveys show a 42% increase in what humans call snacking. That's true, Dr. Wong acknowledged, but we've also observed a 60% decrease in interstellar conflicts. It turns out it's much harder to maintain ancient grudges when you're sharing a good meal. Furthermore, our joint research teams have made fascinating discoveries about the relationship between diversity in diet and adaptability in species development. The crystalline High Counselor, whose form now occasionally flickered with what appeared to be satisfaction, chimed in. The humans have demonstrated that their approach to nutrition, while unorthodox, has merit. The question before us is how to proceed with integration while maintaining necessary health standards. Admiral Chen, attending via hologram from the UES Comfort, joined the discussion. We propose a balanced approach. Earth's culinary experts are already working with Zenith nutritionists to develop what we're calling fusion cuisine, dishes that combine the best aspects of Earth's flavor profiles with the Confederation's health requirements. The chamber buzzed with interest. On a nearby observation deck, 2 Voltraxian diplomats were sharing something called kale chips with a group of energy beings, while a Zenith medical officer cautiously sampled a glowing blue smoothie designed specifically for his species' nutritional needs. There have been unexpected developments, admitted Vex 427. His color patterns shifted to indicate mild embarrassment. Several of our most conservative colonies have started organizing what they call secret supper clubs. They're experimenting with adding flavoring to their standard nutrient packets. Change isn't always easy, Dr. Wong sympathized. That's why we're proposing the establishment of the Interstellar Culinary Institute, a place where species from across the galaxy can learn from each other's food traditions while maintaining their own unique dietary requirements. The proposal triggered a flurry of discussion. The Arctians immediately offered one of their moons as a potential site, while the energy beings suggested creating a quantum realm dedicated to the study of non-material flavor experiences. There's also the matter of the black market, a Voltraxian representative noted. Despite our best efforts, we cannot seem to control the spread of something called hot sauce. Admiral Chen suppressed a smile. The humans had anticipated this. Their intelligence services had already detected the emergence of speakeasies across Zenith space, hidden establishments where beings could indulge in unauthorized flavor combinations. Rather than fight it, they had decided to work with it. Perhaps, she suggested, this is an opportunity rather than a problem. The human experience has shown that attempting to completely control what people eat usually backfires. Instead, we propose a system of culinary certification and education. Let beings make informed choices about their nutrition while having access to safe, regulated options for dietary exploration. The High Counselor's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. The Zenith Confederation was founded on principles of health and harmony. For 10,000 cycles, we believe this meant strict standardization. But perhaps true harmony requires a balance between health and happiness. Dr. Wong nodded. Earth's history is full of examples of food bringing people together across seemingly insurmountable divides. Now we're seeing the same thing happen on a galactic scale. Last week, a Zenith colony and a human settlement collaborated to create a completely new dish that meets all health protocols while still being, as humans say, absolutely delicious. The meeting continued late into the day, as representatives from dozens of species debated the finer points of integrating Earth's culinary traditions with existing galactic protocols. In the end, they reached a historic agreement: the establishment of the first galactic food and health cooperative, dedicated to promoting both nutritional well-being and culinary diversity. As the session concluded, Vex 427 approached Dr. Wong privately. "I must confess something," he said, his color patterns showing mild distress. "I have become somewhat addicted to these cookies you introduced during our first encounter. My personal physician is quite concerned." Dr. Wong smiled warmly. "Don't worry, Officer Vex 427. We're already working on a cookie recipe that aligns with your species' nutritional requirements." After all, the goal isn't to replace your healthy traditions. It's to show that there's room in the galaxy for both proper nutrition and a little bit of indulgence. As she watched the various representatives mingling over their diverse array of refreshments, Dr. Wong couldn't help but feel proud. Humanity had not only avoided a war, but had managed to transform a potential conflict into an opportunity for genuine galactic cooperation. And they had done it all with their most underestimated but powerful tool, the universal language of food. The Last Supper Offensive. 1 year after the Battle of the Golden Arches, the UES Comfort sat in high orbit above the zenith homeworld, its massive silhouette casting a shadow across the planet's gleaming capital city. But this time, the ship wasn't here for conflict. It was catering the largest diplomatic event in galactic history, the first intergalactic culinary conference and peace summit. Admiral Chen stood in the ship's newly expanded main galley, surveying the controlled chaos as chefs from 100 worlds prepared their signature dishes. The kitchen had been specially modified to accommodate everything from plasma-based cooking techniques to quantum flavor manipulation. Status report. She called out to Dr. Wong, who was supervising a team of Arxian chefs working on their latest pizza variant, a creation that somehow existed in 4 dimensions simultaneously. Everything's on schedule, Dr. Wong replied, carefully adjusting the quantum oregano dispenser. Though we had a minor incident in Section C when the Voltraxian fusion chili accidentally achieved sentience. Don't worry, we talked it down, and it's agreed to serve as a consultant for our spice research division. The past year had seen changes that would have been unimaginable during the initial confrontation. The Zenith Confederation, once the stern enforcer of galactic nutritional purity, had transformed into something entirely new. Their advanced biotechnology, previously focused solely on optimizing nutrient absorption, was now being used to create entirely new categories of food. Message from Supreme Health Officer VEX 427. Lieutenant Park announced over the intercom. He's requesting permission to come aboard early. Something about wanting to perfect his presentation for the Great Galactic Bake-Off. Chen smiled. VEX 427 had become one of their most enthusiastic converts after discovering the joy of baking. His color patterns now regularly displayed what xenobiologists termed foodie enthusiasm. Permission granted, she replied. Have him report to Test Kitchen 7, and make sure the ingredients for his zero-gravity soufflé are ready. The upcoming summit would formalize what had already become reality across the galaxy, a new approach to nutrition that balanced health with happiness, tradition with innovation. The Zenith Confederation was being reorganized into the Galactic Culinary and Health Cooperative, with Earth being granted a seat on its governing council. Admiral, Dr. Wong called out, you might want to see this. Chen made her way to the research section, where a holographic display showed data from across the galaxy. The changes were remarkable. Interspecies cooperation was at an all-time high, conflict had dropped to historic lows, and even productivity had improved. Apparently, lunch breaks were good for efficiency. We're detecting some unusual activity in the Carina sector, Wong noted. Remember those conservative Zenith colonies that were resistant to our influence? They're not just accepting human food now, they're innovating. Look at this. The display showed a distant space station where a group of former Zenith purists had created something they called quantum comfort food. Dishes that somehow satisfied both the body's nutritional needs and the mind's desire for satisfaction, all while existing in a state of culinary superposition. Humanity's greatest strength, Chen mused, wasn't our ability to make good food. It was our ability to make food good, to turn the simple act of eating into something that brings people together. The ship's preparations were interrupted by an urgent message from Earth Command. Long-range sensors had detected signals from beyond the galaxy's edge, a new species, watching their recent cultural revolution with great interest. First contact was imminent. Well, Chen said, straightening her uniform, I suppose we should prepare a proper welcome. Already ahead of you, Dr. Wong replied. The kitchen is working on a first contact feast that will be literally universally appealing. We're using quantum entanglement to ensure each dish simultaneously satisfies the taste preferences of any possible form of life. As the UES Comfort prepared for both the summit and the possibility of new alien visitors, Chen reflected on how far they'd come. What had started as a potential war had evolved into something far more significant, a fundamental change in how the galaxy's species related to each other, all thanks to humanity's most underestimated expertise. The final preparations for the summit were almost complete. In the ship's grand dining hall, tables were being set for beings of every conceivable form. Chairs for humanoids, anti-gravity platforms for energy beings, quantum phase spaces for interdimensional entities, and one very special table in the center where the former Supreme Health Officer would present his revolutionary dessert. A cake that somehow managed to be both perfectly healthy and decadently delicious. "You know," Dr. Wong said, reviewing the final guest list, "when we launched Operation Deep Fryer, I never expected it would end with us teaching a former nutritional purist how to bake." "That's the thing about food," Chen replied, watching as the first guests began to arrive, their various forms filling the hall with color and energy. "It's never just about nutrition. It's about bringing people together, about sharing something fundamental. We didn't just change what the galaxy eats, we changed how it thinks about eating." As the summit began, with representatives from every known species gathering to celebrate their new culinary cooperation, the message was clear. Humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had taken their supposed weakness, their attachment to comfort food, and used it to forge a deeper understanding across the cosmos. And somewhere in the ship's busy kitchen, a former Zenith Health Officer was putting the finishing touches on his soufflé, his color patterns glowing with what could only be described as joy. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly the point. After all, as humans had always known, the best way to make friends isn't through force or rules. It's through sharing a good meal.